Welcome back to Token Teardown, Dino Test Certified. This is the show where we roll your favorite crypto projects into the bay, jack them up on the lift, and find out if we've got a real supercar under the hood or just a Bugatti Chiron Supersport 300 plus body kit with no engine inside. Today on the lift, we've got Starknet, ticker STRK. And yes, we will absolutely cover price predictions later, because we know that's everyone's favorite part. But before we talk numbers, we have to ask the only question that really matters. Does Starknet actually deserve a spot in your wallet? Or is this just a 300-mile-an-hour sales brochure with no horsepower behind it? This thing claims to be the Bugatti of Ethereum Layer 2s. The Chiron hits 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds. Starknet fires off thousands of transactions per second. The Chiron tops out at 304 miles per hour. Starknet says it can scale Ethereum without blowing a gasket. Beautiful on paper. But in this garage, we don't trust the brochure. We dyno test everything. And before we dive in, special shout out to my guy Christian, XXX. This man is in the trenches, tearing through white papers, checking GitHub commits, stress testing the actual network, and breaking down data at 2 in the morning so we can walk in here and give you the real truth. Brother, we appreciate you. And now the part everyone always asks about. Starknet, Starkware, Stark proofs? Did Tony Stark build this thing? No, the name comes from the math. Scalable, transparent argument of knowledge. But if there were ever a Tony Stark in real blockchain engineering, the guy behind this tech might be the closest thing we've got. Let's lift the hood and meet the pit crew. All right, now that the intro's out of the way, let's lift the hood and take a look at the people who actually built this machine. Because if you really want to understand Starknet, you have to understand the minds behind it. Most chains are built by a small group of hungry developers trying to make a name. Nothing wrong with that. A lot of great things start that way. But Starknet is different. Starknet is built by people who were shaping cryptography before most of crypto even existed. Let's start with the man who would be the Tony Stark of this space if he ever put on the suit. Eli Ben-Sasson. This isn't a marketing guy. This isn't a hype guy. This is a cryptography pioneer. One of the co-founders of Zcash, one of the original creators of modern zero-knowledge proofs, and the co-inventor of Stark technology itself. The math that powers this entire network, Eli was there on day one. If the blockchain world had an engineering hall of fame, this man would have his own wing. Now that we know who built the machine, let's talk about what the machine is actually designed to do. Because every great build has a purpose. Bugatti didn't wake up one morning and decide to build a 300-mile-an-hour monster just because it looked cool. They built the Chiron to push engineering limits. Starknet has that same kind of ambition, just in math instead of metal. Ethereum is the most trusted racetrack in crypto. It is secure. It is battle-tested. It is where the real builders go. But the track is full. Too many cars trying to run at once. Fees spike, throughput drops, and the chain hits its ceiling fast. It's not broken. It's just busy. Starknet's mission is simple. Scale Ethereum without changing Ethereum. Not replace it. Not compete with it. Not build someplace else. Scale it. Here's the garage version. Ethereum is the original track. Starknet builds a second-story track right above it. All the heavy traffic moves upstairs, leaving the main track clean. But here's the part that separates Starknet from the rest of the rollups. Most chains run the traffic on their own track and then ship all the details back to Ethereum. Starknet does something smarter. It compresses everything into a single mathematical receipt and sends that down instead. Imagine you raced thousands of laps in a day. Instead of giving the official a stack of videos and timing sheets, you hand them one perfect printout that proves every move you made. They check the math and sign off. That's Starknet's entire scaling model. Validity proofs that don't require rerunning the whole race. Now, for the coders in the room, here's why this build is different. The Cairo VM. A VM, a virtual machine, is the engine computer of a blockchain. The EVM on Ethereum is the old school ECU, reliable, predictable, but not designed for high-performance proc generation. Cairo VM is a custom engine built specifically so its execution can be proven efficiently. It produces traces that slot directly into the prover pipeline. That's why the chain scales. For everyone else, here's the garage version. The EVM is a dependable factory computer. The Cairo VM is a race ECU built for speed, accuracy, and verification. Then there's Cairo itself, the programming language. Cairo is not Solidity. It's not plug and play. It's a new engine that takes skill to use. But once you understand it, it lets you do things the old engines simply can't handle. It's harder to master, but unlocks higher performance. And here's the last piece. Account abstraction is native. On most blockchains, smart wallets are aftermarket parts. On Starknet, they're standard equipment. Gas sponsorship, batching, custom rules, multisig, all built in from day one. So what is Starknet actually built to do? The pro answer provides scalable proof-based execution with a prover-optimized VM and native UX upgrades anchored to Ethereum. The garage answer: make Ethereum faster, cheaper, smoother, and more powerful without touching the integrity of the base chain. That's the build sheet. Clean, simple, powerful, and very different from anything else in the rollup world. Now let's talk about whether the upgrades they've actually shipped match the ambition of this blueprint. All right, now that we understand what Starknet is supposed to be, the next question is simple. What have they actually shipped? Because talk is cheap. Upgrades tell the truth, and Starknet has been upgrading, not with gimmicks, not with cosmetic patches, but with real mechanical changes that affect how the network drives. The biggest turning point came with the Grinta upgrade. Before Grinta, Starknet worked, but it felt early. Block times were slow, feedback lagged, the engine hadn't been tuned yet. Then Grinta dropped, and the whole system tightened up. Block times shrank from around 30 seconds to roughly 4. That is not a small tune. That is the difference between tapping the gas and the car actually responding. Grinta also added pre-confirmations, immediate signals to the user that their transaction is accepted, not final, but fast. It makes the network feel alive instead of sluggish. Next came Cairo 1. Early Cairo was powerful but raw, harder to debug, harder to audit, harder to reason about. Cairo 1 rebuilt the language to be clean, modern, and safer without losing performance. For developers, this was a major shift. For the garage gang, here's the simple version. The engine got a firmware update that made it both stronger and easier to control. Then there's the prover, the beating heart of the system. Starknet has shipped repeated upgrades to the prover pipeline, faster proofs, more efficient batching, and reduced computational load. These improvements aren't flashy, but they are the reason Starknet can maintain throughput under pressure. Now, we have to adjust the sequencer outage because it's part of the story. The network stalled, and instead of hiding it, the team published a full breakdown, fixed the issue, and made architectural changes to prevent it from happening again. That's grown-up engineering. You don't judge a project by whether it hits a bump. You judge it by how it responds. And finally, decentralization has started. Starknet now runs multiple sequencers. They are still operated by Starkware today, but the system is being prepared for external operators. It's step one toward true neutrality. That's the upgrade story. Lower latency, faster blocks, safer code, stronger prover, more redundancy, clear movement toward decentralization. No fluff, no hype. Real upgrades that push the machine closer to the performance Starknet claims. Now let's take a look ahead. What the future of this machine is supposed to look like. Now that we know what Starknet has already shipped, let's talk about where this machine is actually heading. Because a good build sheet tells you what the car is supposed to do. Upgrades tell you what the car can do today. But the roadmap tells you what this thing is going to become if the team executes. And Starknet's roadmap isn't built for a short hype cycle. It's built like a long-distance race car. Slow at first, then devastating once the turbo spools. The first major destination is sequencer decentralization. Right now, Starkware still controls the sequencing. The architecture for multiple sequencers is already in place, and external operators are next in line. This isn't just about optics. It's about removing the single point of failure and giving the network true neutrality. When that layer opens up, Starknet takes a major step forward in trust and resilience. The second pillar is prover decentralization. Today, proving is resource heavy, so it's still centralized. But the plan is to move to a world where anyone with the hardware and expertise can run their own prover. When that happens, the core of the network becomes permissionless. And that is one of the hardest but most important milestones for a ZK rollup. The third part of the roadmap is L3 expansion. And this is one of the most misunderstood parts of Starknet's long-term vision. Starknet doesn't just want to be a layer 2. It wants other networks to build on top of it. Gaming chains, simulation engines, high-performance application-specific chains, whole ecosystems with Starknet as the settlement layer. If Ethereum is the racetrack, Starknet wants to be the multi-level racing complex built on top of it. The next part is developer experience. Cairo 1 was the first wave, but the roadmap includes faster compilers, better debuggers, richer testing frameworks, more ergonomic libraries, and dev tooling that makes Cairo something people want to use, not something they have to struggle through. This is the difference between a strong engine and a usable platform. And then there's raw performance. The team is not done tuning the prover, not done optimizing the VM, not done tightening block time. This is a chain that will get faster, smoother, and more efficient as the years go on. Not because of hype pressure, but because that's how this team builds. So here's the garage version. Starknet's roadmap isn't a collection of promises. It's a long, methodical engineering plan aimed at turning this chain from a high-potential machine into a core part of the Ethereum stack. And here's the coder version. Starknet's roadmap is sequencer neutrality, prover decentralization, L3 proliferation, Cairo ecosystem maturation, and continuous proving optimizations, all anchored to Ethereum. The bottom line is simple. This roadmap shows a project that isn't building for the next 6 months. It's building for the next decade. Now let's talk about who's actually using this thing today. Because a roadmap only matters if people are driving the car right now. All right, we've covered the vision and the engineering, but now we need to talk about something way more important. Who's actually driving this machine today? Because a roadmap tells you where the car is going, but real usage tells you whether it even left the garage. And Starknet isn't sitting in the garage. It's on the track. Daily activity ranges in the hundreds of thousands of transactions. That's healthy. That's real usage. And unlike a lot of chains, Starknet's traffic wasn't built on empty incentives or temporary reward programs. It's organic, a mix of real apps, real builders, and real users. Now let's break down where that activity comes from. DeFi on Starknet isn't theoretical. The swaps, the lending markets, the perps platforms, and the DEX aggregators, they're live, they're moving volume, and they're showing signs of actual liquidity depth. It's not the biggest DeFi ecosystem in the world, but it's real and growing. All right, now that we know who's using the network, let's talk about what actually fuels this machine. Because no matter how good an engine is, the wrong fuel mix will choke it out. In crypto, that fuel is the token, and the tokenomics tell you how far this chain can really go. STRK has a total supply of 10 billion tokens. Around 45% of that is circulating. The rest is still locked or vesting. That means more than half the tank hasn't hit the market yet, and that matters. Now, here's the part you absolutely cannot ignore. The unlock schedule on Starknet is heavy. It's steady and it lasts for years. About 60 plus million tokens are unlocking monthly through March 2025. After that, the monthly unlocks almost double, over 100 million a month through March 2027. That is real measurable pressure. If the network grows fast enough, the demand can offset it. All right, now it's time for the part nobody gets to skip. The red flags, because in this garage, we don't just hype the polished carbon or admire the Dino numbers. We crawl under the frame and look at the weak points that could skip, stall, or crack under pressure. And Starknet has a few you need to understand clearly. The first is the sequencer. Right now, it isn't decentralized. Starkware is still the one ordering transactions. They're moving toward a multi-sequencer system. And the architecture is opening up, but until that door is fully unlocked, this remains a genuine single point of failure. They felt that once already, the sequencer outage. The team handled it the right way, but the reminder is there. Centralization always carries risk. The second red flag is the unlock schedule. We've talked about the fuel system already, but it belongs here again. Starknet has heavy monthly unlocks stretching across years. That's not doom, that's math. A tank this big dumping supply every 30 days needs real usage to burn through it. And right as I'm laying this out, unlocking, centralization, pressure on the chart, Christian walks into the bay carrying the teardown data, sequencer logs, unlock flows, builder stats, developer velocity, all of it. And before he even sets it down, I hit him with the question everybody keeps asking. XXX, people keep saying Starknet is a privacy play. With privacy heating up, is there any truth to that? He didn't sit, didn't blink, just raised that eyebrow halfway to the ceiling and said, Guru, privacy might be the hot narrative right now, but Starknet isn't built to hide a thing. It's built to prove everything. Narratives change. Architecture doesn't. Don't confuse what's trending with what's true. Then he set the stack of data down and added, yeah, the founders came from the privacy world. Yeah, the math comes from those labs, but this isn't Zcash. This isn't a shield chain. If someone wants privacy on Starknet, they can build it, but the base layer is transparent. Judge the machine, not the meta. And he's right, so let's expand on that. Starknet does not provide privacy by default. Your transactions are visible. State diffs are visible. The rollup is transparent. That's the design. But here's the part that matters, especially with the privacy meta heating up. Builders are experimenting with privacy on top of Starknet. This isn't rumor. It's happening. You've got teams working on Brahma-style shielded account prototypes. Cairo builds circuits for confidential balances and private transaction logic. You've got developers designing stealth address systems that plug directly into Starknet's proving engine. You've got research groups testing private L3 rollups that would settle back into Starknet using Stark proofs. These aren't massive, mainstream live protocols yet, but the groundwork is being laid. The privacy builders are in the garage, drafting, testing, experimenting, because Starknet's math was born for this kind of work. Privacy is not what the base chain does. Privacy is what builders can add on top of it, and the ecosystem is already moving in that direction. Now let's talk community, and more importantly, who's actually building on this thing. Starknet isn't loud like Solana or meme-driven like Base. It's quieter, more technical, and more serious. But don't mistake quiet for small. The official Starknet X account sits at roughly 344,000 followers. That's not a ghost town, that's a real audience. And most of them are builders, researchers, game dens, and zero-knowledge engineers. But the real strength isn't the follower count. It's the ecosystem. You've got the game studios, Dojo Engine, Realms, Cartridge, Influence, building fully on-chain gameplay with logic, physics, and economies living directly in smart contracts. Most chains can't handle that. Starknet can. You've got DeFi, JediSwap, Nostra, AVNU, ZK-Lend, ZKX, providing real volume, real lending, real swaps, and real perps. You've got infrastructure, API-Bara, Starknet.js, Hyperlane messaging, Warp transpilers, giving builders the tools they need to ship. And layer 3s? They're not a concept. They're already running. Custom chains built on Cairo, settling back into Starknet, designed for high compute workloads. This is not a hype ecosystem. This is a builder ecosystem, the kind that grows quietly until it doesn't. So here's the full picture before we fire up the moolah. Starknet isn't a privacy chain, but privacy builders are absolutely experimenting on top of it. It isn't powered by hype, but it has a serious, committed developer base. It isn't a regulatory landmine, but decentralization needs to land. The unlock pressure is real. The learning curve is steep. But the engineering is elite and the builders are active. And now with the strengths, weaknesses, narratives, risks, and builders laid out, we can finally run the scenarios. Let's talk outcomes. Let's talk market caps. Let's talk where Starknet lands in a $20 trillion crypto world. This is Show Me the Moolah. All right. Now that we've walked the full circuit, the red flags, the privacy reality, the builder ecosystem, and everything Starknet has going for it and working against it, it's time for the moment everyone in the garage waits for. Show me the moolah. This is where we stop talking engineering and start talking outcomes, where we take everything we've learned, the tech, the roadmap, the risks, the momentum, and run it through a market cap Dino. And before we go any further, let me make this absolutely clear. Everything you're about to hear is based on one assumption. The total crypto market reaches $20 trillion. Not today, not tomorrow, but in a future where crypto isn't a niche, a future where it's financial infrastructure, a future where institutions, ETFs, global liquidity, and real on-chain economies push this industry into full-scale adoption. If, and only if, the entire crypto market reaches $20 trillion. Here's where Starknet lands. Now, with that said, Lulu walks into the bay. She doesn't talk, she doesn't explain, she doesn't care about narratives or hype. She just drops the numbers on my desk and walks right back out, because that's what she does. So here's the baseline she handed me. Starknet trades around 20 cents. Market cap, roughly 940 million. That's our starting line. This garage does not sell hopium. We give you 3 scenarios and 1 black swan. Straight math layered over macro. Scenario 1, same dominance. In a $20 trillion world, if Starknet simply holds the same slice of the market it has today, no breakout, no collapse, it lands near a $20 billion market cap. With 10 billion tokens, that's around $2 per STRK. This is the steady lane. The chain works, grows with the market, and does its job without becoming the star of the show. Scenario 2, gain traction. This is where the roadmap lands. Sequencer decentralization hits. Prover upgrades reduce costs. Cairo tooling matures. DeFi stabilizes and grows. Gaming hits stride. L3 ecosystem stack. In that world, Starknet becomes a real powerhouse in Ethereum scaling stack. That gives you around 100 billion market cap, about $10 a token. Not hopium, just Starknet functioning as intended. Scenario 3, the moonshot. This is the world where Starknet becomes far more than a roll-up. This is where it becomes the high compute engine of Ethereum, the place where on-chain games run, simulations run, AI workloads run, and custom L3s settle. A world where Cairo becomes the go-to tool for heavy computation. In that world, 2% of a $20 trillion space puts Starknet near $400 billion in market cap. $40 per token. Not a guarantee, simply the math if the machine operates at full vision. Now, the black swan, because honesty is part of the teardown. A Cairo exploit, a prover failure, a sequencer decentralization delay. A competitor with a simpler developer experience. Adoption slowing because the learning curve is steep. Any of these can flip the entire story. Black swans don't knock, they show up. And before anyone hears these numbers and starts aping into Starknet like a man with nothing left to lose, let me say this clearly. None of this is financial advice. This is crypto. It can go to zero, sideways, backwards, all at the same time. And just in case you're new here, the head of technical analysis in this garage is Lulu. And by TA, we mean technical analysis. But Lulu is a pig. 4 hoofs, curly tail, a snout buried in charts she probably chewed through while she worked. So if you're taking financial advice from a pig with a clipboard, that's on you, not the garage. All right, we've covered everything. The pit crew, the build sheet, the upgrades, the roadmap, the adoption, the fuel mix, the red flags, and of course, the moolah numbers, straight from Lulu. Now, it's time to strap this machine onto the rollers, hit the throttle, and see what it actually pulls. This is the Garage Dino score, and we score the same 8 categories every teardown, no exceptions. Here we go. Engineering and drivetrain, the technology, Cairo VM, Stark proofs, first architecture, one of the strongest designs in the entire space, 9 out of 10. Chassis, the security and decentralization, Ethereum level data availability, but sequencing still centralized and prover decentralization still ahead. 6.5 out of 10. Fuel system, the tokenomics, real utility, native gas, staking, governance, but heavy unlocks pressing down for years. 6 out of 10. Tires and traction, adoption and usage, healthy transactions, DeFi alive, on-chain gaining growing, but still early in the curve. 7 out of 10. Pit crew, the team and the backers, cryptography's A-team, some of the smartest engineers in the industry, support from elite VCs and innovators. 9.5 out of 10. Exhaust vibes, the community and narrative, strong dev culture, ZK narrative rising, retail awareness still building. 7 out of 10. Obstacle course, the risks and red flags, sequencer centralization, unlock pressure, Cairo's learning curve, strong roll-up competition. 6 out of 10. Garage long-term fit, the future potential, sequencer neutrality, prover decentralization, L3 expansion, high compute future. 8 out of 10. And when we put all of that together, Starknet comes off the Dino with a final composite score of 8.2 out of 10. A serious build with world-class engineering, real potential, and a long road to climb. But absolutely, one of the most interesting machines in the entire Ethereum ecosystem. Now, before we close the bay, let me talk to the Garage Gang directly. If you made it this far, you're part of the movement. This show grows because of you. So make sure you smash that like button, hit follow, and share this with someone who still thinks Cairo is just a city on a map. We're building this channel one teardown at a time, and every single one of you helps push this thing forward. Drop your next project in the comments. We'll throw it on the lift next weekend. The bay is closed. We'll see you in the next teardown. Let it rip!